I would like you to fasten your seatbelts because we are about to take off.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board. It's K Global, everything aviation.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is K Global. In previous episodes, we've been talking about careers in aviation and we've dealt with several careers under the aircrew, several careers under maintenance, and we started ground operations where we talked about flight dispatcher in our previous video. In this episode, we'll be talking about aircraft maintenance planning, which is part of the maintenance crew amongst the aviation careers we have. So as we dive into today's video, I'll urge you to please click the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications so as not to miss any videos from us. So in this episode, we're talking about aircraft maintenance planning. So I would say, who is an aircraft maintenance planner? They are part of the maintenance group and a major member of the maintenance ground support. I presume we all know what the word planning means. So to juxtapose, I would say an aircraft maintenance planner's main job is to schedule aircraft maintenance so as to reduce downtime of aircraft and also plan the available resources for the aircraft maintenance. You see, the word schedule that I used earlier, in the definition, it meant to forecast when the aircraft will be grounded for an aircraft maintenance. And when you are forecasting, you forecast the number of days, the equipment needed, the spares needed for the maintenance of that aircraft. So in an aviation organization, which could be an airline or maintenance organization, the planning department may differ from others because of their scope of operations and size of company. So this company's planning department can be different from this company's planning department. So what are the components and specialties of aircraft maintenance planning? So one of the components of and specialties of aircraft maintenance planning is aircraft maintenance planning itself. So what these guys do, or I'll call this the aircraft maintenance planners. So what they do is they plan scheduled maintenance for continuing airworthiness of the aircraft. I know I've mentioned airworthiness in previous video, what aircraft maintenance engineers do, and this is just to correlate with previous videos that I've made. So the second component is also technical records. And what they do as an aircraft maintenance planner in technical records, or who does technical records, is that they ensure recording, preservation, controlling, archiving, and retrieving of the continuous airworthiness documents of the aircraft. Also, another component is the production planner or production planning. So what a production planner does is they manage and evaluate resources related to the maintenance processes. For example, the spare parts, the manpower, the specialized tools, and the facility to be used. Also, another component of specialty in aircraft maintenance planning is material planning, and we have the material planners. So they ensure optimum balance of cost, quality, and supplier service of the quality of the supplier service of material required to support aircraft maintenance. They ensure spares and other support items demanded by the operation or maintenance is prioritized according to needs. So they plan based on reliability, they plan based on consumables, they plan based on the frequency of failure rates of some certain components or parts in an aircraft. So due to increase in safety and advancement in aviation, beyond these components, we now have what we call CAMO. CAMO means continuing airworthiness management. Some people call it monitoring organization. This is a modern way of making planning easier and tracking the aircraft airworthiness. Now, according to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Regulations 2023, it is admonished that every airline is to have a camo service. So this is a game changer in aviation, because even the FAR of America is heavy on it because they audit every camo service or camo company, which is more or less auditing the aircraft. So they just audit the documents of the aircraft. So that being said about planning, how do you become an aircraft maintenance planner? You become an aircraft maintenance planner either by one, you have a science or engineering background. Two, you have an analytic skill. Three, you have the basic aircraft knowledge. Let's say you have a certification from BATCO, I've spoken about that in our previous videos. Four, you have the knowledge of the civil aviation regulations. Five, you have a sound computer skill. Or all this. Now, another alternative is if you're a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer, you can go ahead to become a planner. So it's either you have all this category or you're a licensed maintenance engineer. That is a requirement to becoming a planning engineer. So if you have all these categories, you would have gone through a maintenance planning training course. And if you're a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer, you would also go through a planning maintenance course to become a full-fledged aircraft maintenance planner. So what organizations can you go to do this aircraft maintenance planning course? I've mentioned in previous videos that you have to go through an ATO, which is an approved training organization. And an approved training organization like the Nigerian College of Aviation Technologies area, like some in Lagos here, which is the ATT Academy. We have the Aero Consult, and we have other approved training organizations where you can study the course of being an aircraft maintenance planner. Interestingly, you can do it also online, I think with SOFEMA. Now I'm going to tell you about the rankings, or I'll tell you about the roles you can land when you apply for aircraft maintenance planning, and in comparison with your background. Earlier I mentioned qualifications, how to become, and I gave a list, and I also said or the licensed aircraft maintenance engineer. So I'm going to be picking, if for example you are an SSC holder or you are a bachelor degrees holder, maybe any science course or whatever your background is, then you have your BATCO, which will give you, BATCO means actually basic aircraft technician course. It will give you your basic understanding of aircraft systems, and also maybe you have done aircraft familiarization courses with your degree, your SSC, and you are very computer literate and you have a strong analytical skill. That means maybe you are a data scientist, or you are a programmer, or you work with, or you've done data processing, and it will give you an edge. Now, when you are going to apply for an aircraft maintenance planning role, most likely your first role you would have to land in as a planning officer. And planning officer, because there are some you need to go through some on-the-job training experience and some experience you need to gather over time, which somebody who has gotten a license, somebody who has a license as an aircraft maintenance engineer would have gotten those knowledge basically either from training in school over the years. Like for example, I would say, what does it mean to schedule an aircraft maintenance, or why is there a scheduling of aircraft maintenance? And if you've understood what I've said earlier, based on reliability and the rest, there's what we call MSG, the maintenance steering group, which they came up with maintenance philosophy, which is unconditioned hard time of components, where there are some components, they are time X, there's a life limit on those components. That means the component is just going to be going to last or shelf life for 5 years. Either you use it or you've not used it. When it's 5 years, it has expired. And there are some components until it fails, then you replace it. And there are some components you send for routine repairs or inspections. Now, all these are part of what you get in your experience and understanding maintenance philosophy. So that is why your first role that you will land will be planning officer if you have the your basic science degree courses, you have SSE, you have a BAT school certification, or and you have a strong analytic skill. So a second ranking that I would say also in your career is technical record. So if you understand from what I've been saying so far, you would see that it is similar to the components and specialties of aircraft maintenance planning I discussed earlier. So from the components and specialties, you will be able to get out your rankings. Now, these technical records, I won't say they are higher or they are of a senior category to the planning officers. I would just say they are at an horizontal level, which now depends on the size of the organization you work with. So some organization who has just a little fleet might just need a planning officer, and I'll go to the other categories later. A planning officer. So the planning officer would do both planning and technical records. But some organizations, the bigger the fleet and you have more documentation, according to what I've explained what technical records is earlier, you will have specialized technical records officers. So another category is planning officer, technical records officer at the same horizontal level. So the next category in ranking is you have the planning engineer. Most times the licensed aircraft maintenance engineer who wants to focus fully on planning would most likely be employed and land a planning engineer's role. Also, over time, a planning officer over the years with so much experience would also become a planning engineer. So a planning engineer, because of he understands strongly the maintenance philosophy of an aircraft, also the planning engineer also has gone through on the job trainings, because on the job training is part of the criteria before even getting your license, and has some basic hands-on experience. So he'll be able to make more engineering decisions while also going through his planning duties. Also, the other categories or the other rankings in aircraft maintenance planning is the planning manager, and this is more of an administrative role. So in a place where you have planning officers, you have technical records, then you have planning engineers. Over time, you need a planning manager to oversee and manage the department, or manage the resources available and make more concise decisions. Also, like camo service that I mentioned earlier, also you would have a planning manager run such organizations. So that's like the ranking categories for aircraft maintenance planners. So how are their pay like? Their pay are very good, but pays are also dependent on the organization you are working with. So it's different range according to different companies' structure and policies and pay grade, but they are also well paid. It is not a licensed career, but you can have your license to become a maintenance planner, or you have your certification as a trained maintenance planning officer. So you'd see it's a very critical role, especially in maintenance, aircraft maintenance, because you need a planner to keep the maintenance engineers, to also keep the operation abreast with the scheduled maintenance of an aircraft. Most times they will tease the planning officers or planning engineers that they are always sitting in the office, just relaxing, getting ACs, because maintenance personnel like the maintenance engineers and maintenance technicians, they are always on the line outside in the sun or in the hangar under hot temperatures, working in tight spaces, fixing the aircraft. Then somebody is in the office bringing out documents, that these are documents you have to fill after maintenance, these are what you should plan, that these are the maintenance coming up, you have to do this, you have to do that. And most times they're always teased that they are just I'll use the word soft work, just sitting in the office. But actually it is not so. It is a very mental job. It's a very mental job that needs attention to details, strong analytical skills, and also right decision making. So I would call the aircraft maintenance planner as the brain behind every single maintenance done on the aircrafts. So if you're a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer, or you have any other engineering background, this role will be very good because you'll be able to apply most of your reliability courses, most of engineering design, and other fundamentals of engineering. You'll be able to apply it actively under the maintenance planning role. So I hope you enjoyed today's session, and I'll be seeing you next time. God bless.
K Global, everything aviation.